How I see this is the growing importance of services as outputs of manufacturing industry. Within that, there is growing importance of services as traded outputs. So services as something that is being sold alongside the manufactured products of the manufacturing industry. But they're not always clearly sold in a separate way. Sometimes their services are bundled with goods, sometimes they're provided apparently as a free product alongside the goods. But many manufacturing firms report that they have to take service much more into consideration in their activities. So some people talk of another idea, service-dominant logic, that the role of service is important across the whole economy. It's not just for service industries. So the way I've been thinking of it is that there are several different ways in which manufacturing firms, provide and often sell services. One way that had a lot of attention in Germany is the idea of product services, which are very familiar things like after-sales service, maintenance services, things of this sort. Also disposal of the product when it's reached the end of its life. So taking away the car or the electronics for recycling or reuse, things like this. And there are a lot of product services of this sort. Then there are also services which are about enhancing the material product. So that might be software with computers, for example. It might be showing people new ways of using the product. It might be supplying additional training to people to use the product. It might be complementary products, add-ons to the original product that give it more functionality. Sometimes the manufacturer supplies these themselves. Sometimes there will be a third party that supplies them. Some manufacturers are very frightened of having other people add on to their products. Some welcome this and see it as a way of enhancing their activity. Sometimes there are two versions of these product services, I think, and of these product-based services, and I haven't got a good terminology for this. But sometimes the shift is towards selling, instead of selling the good, towards selling the service that the good supplies. And the very famous case of this is, in this country, is Rolls-Royce. And Rolls-Royce still sells aircraft engines, but to many customers it doesn't actually sell them the engine at all. It sells them the promise that they will have power keeping the aeroplane up in the air for a given amount of time. And people buy this time in the air instead of buying the good. So Rolls-Royce retains the engine. It's still their property, and they're responsible for it. So that's an important sort of product-based service as well. You sell the service instead of selling the product. Again, another two varieties of this. Sometimes you give the people the product, or you loan the people the product. They are in physical charge of it. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're giving them access to the functionality, but you keep the product yourself. And cloud computing is a very good instance of this. We keep the computers, you don't have the computers, you just have terminals to them. But we are giving you the services that you would in the past have had to buy a supercomputer to be able to operate, for example. The third big class of servitization activity that I'm aware of is where it's parts of your process you're selling on as a service. Some years ago I was at a British car manufacturer, and their laboratories are used by, they sell laboratory facilities. They sell technical testing services to other companies. They will test that your products are compliant with regulations, that they meet various specifications in terms of fit and things of this sort. People will sometimes sell prototyping capabilities, so sell some of their manufacturing capabilities. And then there are some famous cases, of course, of firms that have sold their information processing capabilities. So some of the big value-added network firms in the world were originally in-house services that were run by companies like General Electric, for example, or in this country, not manufacturing, but some of the banks set up their own internal communication networks and then sold these on to the rest of the world because people wanted this sort of functionality they could supply. So I would see servitization as involving a whole range of different sorts of precise services that people sell that could come out of any part of your operation as a manufacturer. It can come out of your own design processes, can come out of your manufacturing processes, can be associated with the product that you're selling, can be associated with the repair, maintenance, disposal of the product you're selling. One of the big challenges that we have now is understanding why some firms move very much in this direction and others don't, and what sorts of firms move towards servitizing what sorts of activities, and when they make it something that they sell, and when they keep it as something that they are bundling together with the goods that they're normally selling. So there's a lot we don't know about the strategy here. That leads me on to the second question.